A few years ago, I didn't really think about where my trash went. Like most students, I went to school, worried about homework and deadlines, and assumed that once I threw something away, it was gone. Out of sight, not my problem anymore. Then one day, driving home from school, I started noticing something I couldn't stop seeing. I remember the exact moment. I was sitting in my car at a red light, windows down, when I caught a whiff of some trash. Then a honk, and suddenly this massive dump truck rolled by me. Then another, and another, all heading in the same direction, towards the Frank R. Bowerman landfill, which I would later realize was the 9th largest landfill in the United States, just a few miles away from my home. And I just sat there, watching them disappear over the hill, one after another, like a parade. And that's when I got this weird pit in my stomach. Because this was happening every single day. And I hadn't even noticed it. How do you miss something that big? Over time, I realized that those trucks were carrying nearly a quarter of America's landfill waste as food, which rots into methane, a greenhouse gas significantly more dangerous than carbon dioxide. But what scared me wasn't just the science. It was the realization that if I hadn't looked out the car window that day, I might still not know that my own food waste was helping fuel the climate crisis. And if I didn't know, I probably wouldn't care. That's when I started noticing something else. Artificial intelligence feels the same way. I mean, it's simple, right? You open an app, you ask a question, you generate an image. There's no smoke, no pollution, no visible cost. But behind every AI are massive data centers, servers that require enormous amounts of electricity and water just to stay cool. In fact, training AI systems generates emissions comparable to multiple cars over their entire lifetimes. And here's what makes it complicated. AI feels unstoppable. I mean, it's everywhere, right? It's in our homes, our classrooms, our phones. It diagnoses disease, it writes essays, it recommends what we buy, what we watch, and what we think about. Climate change also feels unstoppable. And suddenly, these two unstoppable forces are colliding. In 2025, one AI company announced their project to build up to 10 massive data centers, each capable of using as much electricity as an entire US state. When I read that, it stopped feeling so abstract. I thought about my younger cousins and what kind of future they'll remember. Will they remember playing outside until the sun sets? Or staying inside because the air quality index is too high? Will heat waves feel like rare occasions or normal events? That's when it stopped being just about the technology. It started being about responsibility. Because here's the truth. Technology doesn't control the future. We do. But right now, we are building systems faster than we are thinking about their long-term consequences. And if we aren't intentional, we could create powerful tools that quietly make our biggest problems worse. But here's what gives me hope. The same technology that is used to accelerate the climate crisis can actually be used to solve the climate crisis. I started small, at home. I knew the science: rising temperatures, extreme weather patterns, greenhouse gases. But at the time, It all felt distant and abstract. So I asked myself a question. What does climate change look like in my community? My answer to that question was a simple app, a tool powered by machine learning that pulls local temperature data over the past few decades and maps out how our summers had quietly shifted. Hotter, longer, and more dangerous. It wasn't a complete solution, but it changed something in both me and my community. It made climate change visible as something happening currently in our lifetime. And projects like these are already happening at a larger scale. Some organizations are using AI to detect methane leaks from space, solving a key environmental issue in an innovative way. AI is also being used to reduce traffic congestion, regulate energy use in buildings, and predict extreme weather events before they become disasters. So ultimately, the technology isn't good or bad. The difference is what we choose to optimize for. Because, yeah, AI can consume resources, and it does. But if used wisely, it can save more resources than it uses. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, I'm just one person. What can I do? There is something you can do, something all of us can do. But first, here's a picture I want you to imagine. Imagine a world 10 years from now. In one version of the future, heat waves are more frequent, water supplies are being drained, and carbon emissions are higher than ever. AI is still powerful, but it's contributing to the same issues making life harder. Now imagine another future, one where AI is helping schools reduce energy use, predicting wildfire risks before they happen, and helping cities manage water before a drought. Same technology, different priorities. One future feels worrisome, and the other requires intention. And here's the most important part of it all. We are the generation building it. Every generation has a defining technology. For our grandparents, it was electricity. For our parents, it was the internet. And for us, it's artificial intelligence. And AI will change the world. That part is inevitable. But whether it accelerates environmental damage or helps solve it is still undecided. And that decision isn't happening in some distant lab. It's happening in how we make decisions, in what we demand as users, and what we choose to care about. Because unstoppable doesn't have to mean uncontrollable. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, what can I do? Well, the next time you open up an AI tool, stop for 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds. And ask yourself, does this tool really need AI? What most people don't know is that every AI message consumes energy. So if you're using it to do something you already know how to do, try doing it yourself first. Not because AI is bad, but because intentional use is more powerful than automatic use. And remember, invisibility is not the same thing as absence. Just because we don't see the issue doesn't mean it isn't there. Now, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I am scared. I'm scared that we're building faster than we're thinking about the long-term consequences. But then I think back to that app I built. It wasn't perfect, but if me, a high schooler messing around in my bedroom, could make climate change visible in my community, imagine what would happen if millions of us decide to take action. Because remember, Technology doesn't decide the future. The future is designed by the values we put into it. And that is something we can't control. Thank you.